Very emotional because it's just the rage that you get as a target individual because it's clear what they're doing. When you're a target individual, you have people around you who wants to just repaint reality in such a obvious cover. Oh, so disturbing. But I do believe in God. I know that what's happening to me is very much scientifical, in the sense of like, unfortunately, target individual, we are just test subject. That's the reality of what's happening to us. But there's a painting that happens. They try to confuse it, and as I'm saying, they try to mess with me. But they try to disorient the target individual in so many ways. And you have to be strong because they're really reinforcement. They're really reinforcing these disorienting tactics or disorienting narratives. It's meant to confuse the target individual, and it's meant to make the target individual believe this is anything but what this is obviously is. But by doing that, what it does too is it can make the target individual go into a rage state. I think I don't know, like if it wasn't thought it was gonna go that way, but it's clearly easy to for it to go that way. I mean, a lot of this nonsensical ways of wanting you to think is just damn near moronic. What I mean by moronic is you'll find out sooner or later what this is really about, and once you find that out, oh my gosh, it turns something else. What you're seeing here is a video I made. You know, the reason why I say I believe in God more than ever is because one of my prayers have been always, I know these people are full of shit and what they try to present is not true. Unmask them. Unmask these people and let them be seen for the true trash that they are. And that answer, that was answered, that ask was answered in ways that was just surreal. Scary at every level. At every level. I've been validated of how trashy and the true intent of this program and what it does to some of the most vulnerable. And what they do is not only doing the foulest things to people, but they even groom kids to partake in this. Now, for me, these groom kids, to me, I see them as the future trash, already trash. I've reinforced that in my brain, and I will react accordingly. I've known at this point I've accepted. They purposely do that, thinking that they try to pacify the target individual, right? And I noticed that sometimes they use children because you're like, oh, you wouldn't react, in certain way toward children, in regard of like being aggressive or not. Now it's not that I'm going to be aggressive, but let's just say that when we talk about the death and torture of women and children, it's not going to be a nice thing happening. And I've noticed there's a lot of children trying to negate that, to make what happens to what's happening here as something else. Matter of fact, I'm being told that some of these brave teenagers are gonna act like they got raped by me, and they're doing it because they're avenging. If anything, this validates what this is all about. Let me bring up what they think I should think that they're avenging. And every time I bring that up, you should see how intense they get. What they think by doing that is it's going to cover up what you're going to hear. So they have this, oh, you got to pay for that. And then they think that me acting this way is going to cover up what you're going to hear this woman hear. And the others speak about and what this program does. Because in this program, test subjects inclusive of men, women, and children. Many have died. But some of the saddest part is some of the women being tortured in this program, some of the target individual tortured in this program, have had a terrible life as a child. And this is the woman here. That she came and answered my prayer in regard of how I'm masking this trash. And matter of fact, these people are so grotesque that they will utilize her story to paint the story they wanted to paint. That's when you know this trash has some other thing. It is so disgusting that they will utilize what she's going through, take the story of what is happening to her, and apply it to what they were trying to paint themselves as. Now let me bring up where you're seeing a child there. This is an 8th grader. The reason why I have this video with an 8th grader there is because what they try to act like, what they wanted me to think that they're avenging for, is from what I did when I was a child, about his age. At that age, I did something that was inappropriate to myself. They've been trying to exaggerate that. They try to make it worse. They've been trying to create a different, creating stories and things that just escalate what I actually did. It's not true. What was done was something that was done once and never happened again. They try, even now, they just try to create some other things, which I'll bring it up because, and as I'm saying, that's like, yeah, it's our court. It's like, the reason why they say that, like I said, they just try to cover up what you're going to hear, which are going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. They want to exaggerate what a child that age did to cover up what they do to children and women, which you're going to hear. And you're going to hear, it's funny when they talk about courts, you're going to hear what the court have done to this woman. It's so disgusting. So what happened here? Let's just bring up, first of all, what I did as a child was something I did to myself. An act that I completely forgot about, to be honest. It completely phased out of my brain, because the truth is, a kid at that age can do impulsive things that they don't think about ever again. It's something they just did this and never think about. That's what the brain of a child is capable of doing. But I'm not here to try to bring up the fact that the brain of a child is more impulsive than adults. You know, the days of me trying to be rational with this trash is gone. It's clear that this is not a question about being rational. There's no need for that. They know very well the reality of things. They just try to cover up. But I can speak about how they try to exaggerate. It's like, no, you did this to her. As I'm saying that they try to mess with me. You molested her. You raped her. You used her hand. You did all kind of things they try to exaggerate. You used her mouth. At one point, to try to find less extremes, like, she touched it though. She touched. Nastiness. When in truth, it's something I did to myself as a kid that I completely forgot about. Now, they've been trying to say, nah, she traumatized by what you did. Listen, if I couldn't remember that act, I'm sure she doesn't even remember who I am. And I was right. I actually talked to the father, and before even I remember whatever I did as a child. And he was like, yeah, she doesn't remember you, but the brother remembers you. He kind of remembers you. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, good. And in my mind, I'm like, okay. And then, and now they're like, no, you traumatized her. And this, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to find her. I'm going to get a hold of her. I'm going to find what she's going, like what's going on with. Because I know it's not true. I know the reality is these people are doing harmful things to women and children. And I already heard so many testimonials of the torture of even 3-week-old babies. What you going to get to hear? So it's like, I'm not gonna allow this trash, delusional fuckers involved in a program where they are here killing children, paint themselves as like the punishers. They are here punishing 3-week-old babies. Never gonna happen. So I got a hold of her. I found her Instagram, and actually before that, I think I saw a YouTube of things. She's like really artsy, and she's like a masseuse and thing. And I want to hold on to that because I'm gonna bring that back. And one of her, like, she like poetry. At one point, she's talking about how like she's depressed and this thing and that. Is like, you see, she's depressed. You traumatize her. Like, oh my gosh, she doesn't remember me, and whatever depressed her is definitely not my act of a child in 8th grade. That she doesn't even remember me. Now I don't know what's going on with her life, but one thing I can be reassured and know for sure is there's no way she knows me. I talked to her father, and I myself don't even remember me. But I was like, you know what? Let me show you that she doesn't even know me. Let me show you how confident I am. I send a message to her. I'm like, hey, my name is this and that. I'm one of you. We lived together in 2001. I was like 13, 14. You were this old. I hope I can get a hold of you. Like, I was really hoping that she can talk to me back. But the reality is like, there's no way she knows who I am. There's no way. The father even confirmed that before. So I'm like, okay, she never responded to me. I was like, oh, for sure. Say, okay. It's like, you see, that's how much I'm so, I don't even want them to even fantasize that they are some kind of Avengers and bring up what a child at that age is capable of doing due to the impulsiveness of a child that age. To paint themselves as protectors of children, I am never going to let that, never allow that. Now, you know what they're doing? Because today she's a masseuse, huh? And they're like, yeah, no, she's a masseuse because when the girl was like, you know, a little girl, I remember laying on the bed and she was playing under my shirt. And I was just watching TV. I was laying on my stomach. And she was playing my head, on my back, and you know, and I was the age of this kid over here. Just watching TV, nothing. And you know, the mother comes in, it's like, hey, what are you doing? Come over. And she kind of looked, you know, it was. And they're like, you see the mother? No, talk to the mother. It's like, she's delusional. It's like, that's why she became a masseuse. Because she was doing this thing on your back, now she sees she's a masseuse. And it's like, yeah, the mother. And I was like, no. The mother's like, well, what are you doing on the shirt of. And I was on my stomach, she was playing on my back. It's like, you see, she knows this and that. I was like, trash. She saw her girl playing under the shirt of a middle school child. It's like, you see, she knew. Either way, what happened was something not as extreme as you tried to create. It was inappropriate, and it's not her playing on my back. But I did something to myself as a kid. But they're like, the mother knows and this and that. Okay, I talked to the father, and that's why they're like, yeah, no, talk to the mother. It's like, you're just delusional. But guess what? I'll talk to her. We're all grown up now. And I reassure you she doesn't know me. Now, was the mother right to you know, maybe like a kid that age, you know, playing with the back of a kid like that? Yeah, most likely, because you know, kids at that age are 13, 14. Let's just say that the brain is, you know, all the way there. Things are happening. But nothing happened there, and the only thing that happened was the inappropriate acts. Now, I shouldn't even waste my energy, because who I'm talking to here, who is this Avengers? That actually, I tried to say that what I did was abuse, when the truth is it wasn't even that. It was an appropriate act of what a middle school child that age can do. Because the truth is, kids that age, let's just be honest, especially boys, 13, 14, there's a lot of things going on there. Things that are not stable in their brain. Now, I'm not here to rationalize with trash who involved in what you're going to hear. Because what you're going to hear now is something else. As they will try to use that and vilify me, like, you pay for what you did. Pay. Something I myself completely forgot. I realized, oh, it's a gimmick. Not only is a gimmick because they want to act like the avenging, but you know, when they manipulate me with, which is this now about this video, when they today make me have these experiences, they make me experience as an adult. They're like, no, we're mimicking your brain as you as a child. It's fucking trash. Which is not true. I didn't experience that when I was a child. What I did as a child was just inappropriate act. And let me just reassure you and say that it happened once. But if it was something I wanted to do often, I could have done it all the time. That's what validates that act to be just this impulsive act. And the truth is, when I look at this teenager involved in this program today and what they're doing, I'm just like, I'm so glad that all I did as a kid, it was this inappropriate act that's just an impulsive act as a child. These trash are involved in a program that tortured children and women and killing them. In my mind, they even tried to create other events that didn't even happen. That's what they bring up when she's playing my back. Make me imagine that happening again. It's like, nah, nothing happened there. You just try to create that. And the mother be like, hey, come over here. It's just being a good mother. But nothing was happening. But I'm so glad I'm not these teenage kids here. Some of them saying they're like 13, 14. Tell me they're gonna frame me to make me pay for what I did as a child. I'm like, you trash ass. This program is killing children and torturing them and actually abusing. Let's talk about abuse. Now you're gonna hear what abuse is. This program abuses, torture, and kills children. But it goes further than that. You know what they started telling me not too long ago? They were like, she remembers. She remembers. And it's like, that's not even true. But what she was saying, or what they're saying, where it was coming from. They took the story of a woman called Megan. They were taking the story of a woman called Megan, who was actually a target individual. You're going to hear her story and what she remembers. That's the first thing. That's the woman you see next to the child there. That's why I believe God is real. Not because the horror of what this woman goes through makes it God being alive. No. Because it was happening all along. It's just for her to speak up about what's happening to her as a target individual is a sign from God. That is all I needed to see. That's all I needed to see. Because I knew things that were just, it was so much obvious things already. The woman that you're seeing there remembers her father abusing her and molesting her. Abusing her. Around 3, 4, maybe 5 years old. And she remembers what her father did to her. Who remembered is this woman Megan. And what I bring Megan is a targeted individual. Megan deal with this direct energy weapon that targets her body in disgusting ways. Today, one of the last videos talking about her neck and her back being damaged, just like me. If you see how I look today, it's not looking good. Megan is being physically tortured, that's non-sexual, and sexually tortured. And psychologically tortured in other ways. It's so disgusting. Because one of the videos that is not here is because in this program they can manipulate your brain. One thing they like to do with her, one thing they've done to mess with her, to traumatize her, is they keep putting the memories of the abuse of her father into her brain as a way to traumatize her. It is disgusting. But what she remembers, you're going to clearly hear. This is a woman who's a target individual. You're going to hear her call herself a target individual. And it's so bad that she even tried to get help from a psychiatrist. Let me repeat. She wants to get help from psychiatrists because the trauma is traumatizing her. It is a trauma. Actual trauma from the abuse of her father. For what has happened to her as a child. And this purpose, we're using the story of this woman who remembers her father abusing her. They even say, oh, she wants justice. Guess who's seeking justice for her abuser? Megan. But one thing they said here is their courts. Unfortunately, Megan is a target individual, and this program control all these entities consisting of law enforcement to court systems and the justice system. Everything is sabotage for her. What's sabotage for her is her trying to get psychiatrist help. Sabotage. She can't even get that. Try to get basic health care, even from like a mammogram, to make sure she doesn't have breast cancer. Sabotaged. And she went against the abuser. I guess her father in this case. Court system messed that up for her. I didn't even bring up the fact that this program is led by governmental entities linked to the DoD. To know that the DoD has had issue with this pedophilia-centric issue, that a bill was introduced in 2019 called National Defense Network Abuse Act, because so many DoD employees were downloading child porn using computers of the DoD. Just show how protective they are to children. To find out an article from BuzzFeed article call out the intelligence community that have consistent issue with pedophilia, with CIA agent abusing children, 2-year-old and 6-year-old, is another thing. Then you're just gonna hear what you've heard many times here. Just target individual, talk about what's happening to them and their family, or the children they're responsible for, from sexual, psychological torture. These perps around me want me to let them live this fantasized reality where they're avenging, they're protecting children, and they're making me pay for what I did as a child. When the truth is, they're torturing children, they are killing children, and they're abusing women that have been abused as children. These perps wanting to partake in what's happening to me without being accountable for what they really signed up for. They signed up for a program that literally is doing evilness to even the most vulnerable. You're going to hear three-week-old babies being tortured. I'm not even going to bring up what they do to women. Let's stick to what to women who've been abused as children and to children. I will never give them the satisfaction, never giving them the satisfaction of the storylines they've created, exaggerating what I did as a child, try to create multiple events of that happening when it only happened once. Try to be like, no, but the mother and this and that. Shut up. You just try to look for stuff. So no, but talk to the mother. You talk to the father, but talk to the mother. It ended the way it needed to end. This purpose did not live this fantasy. The anger they have is a rage that's supposed to negate how they torture women and children, and even women that have been abused and molested as children. There's even more disturbing things that shows how disgusting they are to children. Target me too. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank God. Everything I've asked for has been shown to me. They've been demasked. They've been unmasked. And shown for the true opportunities that they are. For participating in a program that truly harmed children, truly abused children, and even killing them. It's never going to happen. I will never identify with how they want to paint this narrative, how I'm being manipulated, and most importantly, what they want to paint themselves as.
And I was supposed to go make an appointment with a psychiatrist, and I had to help me deal with like crying and everything. I assume just like PTSD, just things today, stirring up feelings from times that have passed, and like really intense feelings. So I was hoping to get medicine to help me cope with it. But anyway, so I made like an appointment in like July, like late June, early July, and I showed up to it was supposed to be like an online kind of thing, and it was like just a whole bunch of bullshit. And then in the end, the person didn't meet with me, and then suddenly they also didn't take my insurance. And these kind of things have happened. Like last year, I tried for like 3 months to get a mammogram. Suddenly this year, this company, I complained about this actually to a couple of people, and then suddenly this company just happened to get my number and call me, and they were like gonna schedule me an appointment. But I was supposed to get like a mammogram for somebody who's experiencing pain, which is supposed to be like bilateral, and I'm small chested, so like it doesn't make sense to do the roller machine thing. They're like, there's not much to put in here. So anyways, I didn't end up getting a mammogram because they weren't, and then suddenly, like, I had 2 or 3 physicians refer me to get mammograms, in the past, like, year and a half. But then whenever I go to get the mammogram, suddenly it's like a walk-in facility, but then suddenly it becomes an appointment-only facility, and then it's like 6 or 8 weeks out. And then whenever I go, they don't take my insurance. So you see, this is like a repetitious pattern. And I don't know, I think it's like just something just like lasers basically on my body just to try to make me look gross or something. It seems weird that would be like a weapon of war. Like, super strange, or things have happened. Anyway, so it's just, I was super discouraged after that happened. Like, I had been staying with someone and doing work with them, and it was like I started staying with them on a Friday, and like Monday, suddenly my counselor couldn't meet with me. Friday, the psychiatrist couldn't meet with me, and like Thursday, my phone suddenly didn't work anymore, and it was just like, I don't know, it's really weird. And the week before that, hold on, maybe it was the week before that, maybe it was even that same week, my court case got dismissed on the basis of jurisdiction. And it was like one of those things where you have like 2 weeks to respond, and if you don't respond in 2 weeks, we're gonna make this decision. Well, I told the court that anything they send to me takes 2 weeks to a month for me to receive it. So if you tell me to respond in 2 weeks, like, it's probably like a month later whenever I get that. So I'm smiling now. It's been a rough couple of weeks. And just kind of coping with some of the things that I like, high level trauma that I deal with if I'm living in a house. Which of course, like, sleeping in the car is super scary because I'm a woman and it's super scary. But there are things that are really scary about living in a house too, and they're hard, high level, difficult to cope with. I was talking to a friend of mine this week, and she was talking about Sasha. She was talking about like feeling like no matter what decision you make, it's gonna be the wrong decision. That like you have, like, almost like you're forced to make some decision, but like no matter what it is, it's not like each outcome is a negative outcome. And I was dealing with a lot of feelings like that, feelings that like things have happened to me that have caused me a lot of difficulty, and just like really intense feelings. But then if I try to get like help to cope with those feelings, like the same system that did that shit to me keeps me from getting help. And just like feeling like, you know, like I bought the lie that I live in some place where there's freedom and justice, and I thought that my experience was unique. And now I think that my experience is truth, and what I believed was a lie. And that most of the people that I meet live in some variation of the same situation, or in some form or fashion, where like I'm told that like even presidents get prosecuted if they commit crimes. But the reality is my government has protected my abusers and even caused them to abuse me. And that since I was a child, when I was a child. And just like feeling like those ugly, helpless feelings, like I couldn't protect myself when I was 5, and like feeling like a lot hasn't changed since then, like, and some things have changed, you know, some things have changed, but just like those feelings of helplessness, of like not being able to really help myself, feeling like I can't, like someone's claiming some kind of jurisdiction over my life so that I can't like get housing. I've worked for humanitarian aid organizations, I know how they work, and feeling like the resources are for people but not for me. And part of that is why I stopped working for humanitarian aid organizations, because I felt like I couldn't help the me that needed help. Like that person was just calling and getting answering machines if their calls went through at all. And that's what it feels like. It feels like, you know, on the surface there were people that were involved in the things that happened to me, but the reality of the situation is I was put into the care of the person who I later knew as my father. And in December, I remembered being sexually abused by somebody who looked a lot like him. And I don't know, I remember being in some place, some facility that wasn't a hospital, but I've told myself my whole life it was a hospital. And I remember when I saw his face, I kicked him in the face, and I was like 3 or 4 years old. And I don't know what would make me respond that way. And the sexual abuse that I just remembered in last December, like, I wonder if, I mean, someone put me into his care. Someone told me you're going to get a mother and a father, and only he showed up to get me. And I wonder if he did that to me before then, and they just put me right back into his hands. And that's very possible. That is very possible that that's exactly what happened. And unfortunately, I don't remember the sequence of events. My memory of the sexual abuse, like, the man looked like my father, but he wasn't as tall, and that's super hard to explain. Anyways, my phone's gonna die. Deep breaths. So, yesterday I went to the beach and like drank a couple of beers and just sat down there after laying in bed and sobbing for 2 hours because the private parts of my body were being burned and my breasts are removed. And just the trauma from it. Just not being able to cope with the pain and the emotional trauma that comes from someone harming me using, I guess, remote medical technology is my best guess. I went and saw a dermatologist. Hey, I just woke up after a pretty rough night. The same thing happened last night as the night before, which was whenever I was trying to go to sleep, the private parts of my body began being burned again, and it felt like someone pushing out stream. I can feel it's going to be the same again today. Already on the harming of the private parts of my body. I don't really know what to do. I tried to go to a doctor to get some kind of pain medicine because what actually happens to me, a lot of strange things. I've been doing some research, I guess what it's called, organized stalking. I'm called a targeted individual. But the abuse last night was pretty extreme. I can feel it's going to be the same again today. Already on the harming of the private parts of my body. Don't really know what to do. I tried to go to a doctor to get some kind of pain medicine because what actually happens to me, what is happening to me is my actual physical body is being burned. And so it causes me to go into shock, and it's excruciatingly painful. And I have my limitations on the duration and length of pain that I can handle. So it was a couple of weeks ago, I tried it. I don't know if the government has the right to watch and the proper in a lot of capacities of the things that I've faced. So today just feeling some pretty general fear about my own safety, because the government's burning the private parts of my body. Sometimes it feels
My name is Catherine Nestor, and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutmann to begin today.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions. I observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe
and have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss. Unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy, with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured.